Welcome to How It Works, a video series from Law Sites and LawNext, in which you get to see hands-on demonstrations of legal tech products directly from their developers. I'm Bob Ambrogi, and in today's episode, we're going to get a demonstration of Briefpoint, a product for propounding and responding to discovery requests using AI. Joining me to talk about it, tell us and show us how it works is Nathan Walter, the CEO. Nathan, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
We want to get into the demo ASAP, but before we do that, why don't you just tell us a little bit about Briefpoint?
Yeah, so Briefpoint is a software program, and it's designed to eliminate discovery work. So we're a point solution, Briefpoint, and we just want to eliminate discovery. We want to get whatever you do for discovery and litigation, we want to take that and then kill it. So you don't do work on discovery anymore. And the ultimate product is one that automates a ton of the components of discovery, even some of the less obvious pieces, so that we have 100% discovery elimination. And that's what we're working towards. And what I'll show you today is some of the steps that we've made in that direction.
All right, without further ado, why don't we just dive in and get the demo going?
I love it. All right, so this is Briefpoint, and Briefpoint is an out-of-the-box solution, meaning that there's no setup, there's no implementation. When you log in, you can get started drafting discovery responses and requests. And what I'm going to show you first is how we draft discovery responses. I'll show you how we collect responses from clients. I'll show you a new feature we have that automates responses to requests for productions. And then finally, in the last part, I'll show you how we generate outgoing sets of discovery or propounding discovery. So for discovery responses, what you do is you just click Upload Document, and you upload the PDFs of your opposing counsel's discovery requests. So here, I'm going to upload some requests or demand for productions, some interrogatories, and some requests for admissions. These can come from any state. So we have coverage over all 50 states, DC, and all 98 federal district courts. You don't need to OCR the PDFs. However they're given to you, you give them to us. And here we have some interrogatories. So I'm going to click Get Started. And now we're going to confirm some information that Briefpoint's pulled out of the document. Now we use this information to create a case and client folder for you on Briefpoint automatically, but also populate the caption page so that when you open the Word document response, it's already mostly completed. Now we're in what I call the primary workflow, where we've taken every interrogatory out of my opposing counsel's discovery request and put it into a list for our users to object and respond to. But before I even do that, if you want to just see what Briefpoint's created to this point, you can click the button called Open in Word at the bottom, and in about a second, a Word document will download to your computer, and this is what it looks like. So we have a caption page completed. This happens to be a California caption page because when you upload any document into Briefpoint, we identify the jurisdiction, so any Word documents you download pursuant to that case are automatically formatted pursuant to that jurisdiction's formatting rules and customs. And here you can see the California customs where you have Times New Roman 12 double space lined 28 lines per page. And everything's lined up one after another, and we have the shell with every single interrogatory and space for the response to the whole document. So this is something that maybe your secretary or support staff would do. They would wrangle with opposing counsel's PDF, create this shell. We do that effectively instantaneously. This isn't servable, though. It's just a skeleton. So I'm going to hop back into Briefpoint and show you how we can flesh this guy out. And you can flesh it out with things like objections. Now, there's two ways to object in Briefpoint. You can object, or you can have Briefpoint object for you. If you want to object, you just click on the name of the objection from the menu on the left. So there I did confidential, irrelevant, privilege. And this is our out-of-the-box content, but it's fully customizable. So you can go into privilege. You can add different versions of privilege. Like here we have marital privilege, trade secret, all sorts of privileges. You can override Briefpoint's content, make your own content, really tailor it. And then you ensure that when you or anyone in your team is clicking these buttons, it's inserting your sort of pre-approved gold standard work product. Or you can have Briefpoint object for you by clicking suggest, and Briefpoint will select and then write the objections. Now, the reason that we write these objections in addition to choosing them is to protect our users from boilerplate objection arguments. Starting about 8 or 9 years ago in New York, judges started disfavoring what we call boilerplate objections more greatly, where they would say, hey, you clearly just copy and pasted these objections. You're going to need to think a little bit more about these objections to make them hold water. And so what we do is we write these objections and argue why they apply to the interrogatory in order to bring them out of the boilerplate. It's a suggestion, though. It's not a prescription. You can add additional ones. You can toggle between Briefpoint's generated version and your version. We're getting you ink on paper. It's what the average attorney would select, and it's a little bit above the standard of care where we're actually tailoring these objections and you can choose how you want to do it.
So
Now,
does that mean no two of them are precisely the same?
we're dealing with large language models. Yeah. You turn the temperature down to 0, but that doesn't control for randomness. So nothing will be the same. And that's good, right? Because then they won't look copy and pasted because they're all a little bit different, right? So the LLM's functionality helps us with that. Now, for substantive responses to interrogatories, what we have and what I'm about to show you is a function called send to client. And what I wanted to do when we built this was replicate or mirror the phone call I would have with my clients, where I'd get on the phone with them, I'd have the opposing counsel's interrogatories in my hand, and I'd have a natural conversation with them going over the information that they needed to give me, and then I'd ultimately bake that into a formalized response document. So the way I'm going to show you that and how we've achieved that sort of mimicry is I'm going to send these to myself so we can see what it looks like from the client side and put in some answers and then come back in and show you where those answers end up. So when I click send a client, we're brought to this staging area where our users can choose which interrogatories to send. So if you don't need to burden your client with an interrogatory, you can just deselect it. The fewer you send, the greater the chance they'll respond. For the ones you do want to include, there's a place where you can add notes that the client will read when they're responding. And these might be instructions or explanations of what's being asked to help them understand it. Or you click Simplify All, which is this button here, and Briefpoint will automatically convert the interrogatories into simplified English. So we remove the legalese, we shorten the word count a little bit, and we just give a no-nonsense explanation of what's being asked, which is basically what you would be doing on the phone call anyways. And that helps because I don't know if you've seen these modern interrogatories, sometimes they have definitions and all this confuses. It's really not easy to read. And if your client speaks Spanish, you can click Spanish and we'll convert everything into simplified or conversational Spanish. And when you go to a Spanish client through Briefpoint, their entire UI, all the buttons are in Spanish. And when they respond in Spanish, we'll convert their response back into English for you. So you can now work with more Spanish-speaking clients to get the information you need to defend your case. Now, I've converted this. I'm clicking next. I'm putting in my client's email address. They don't need to download an app. They don't need a computer. All they need is an email address because when you hit confirm, we create these instructions for our users to send our clients. Now, we don't communicate with our users' clients. We don't send the clients any emails. Instead, we give our users these instructions for them to send the client, which say, go to this link, enter this code, answer the discovery. I figure it's just easier for you not to have to explain who Briefpoint is to a client and to email these instructions to a client. You just click open email. It'll open your email, and then you click send. And now you've sent your client these instructions. So I'm now the client. I received this from you. I can do this on a phone, a tablet, doesn't matter. I go to the link. We start the decryption process. I click put in the verification code. And all the discovery you send your client will be located here. In this case, there's only one. As a client, I click respond. I see the original text of the interrogatory, the simplified explanation there. If I click Spanish, you'll see everything in Spanish. And I'll actually paste in a Spanish response so we can see how that converts back into English. Moving back into English, we also show the client all their prior responses on the right. And the reason we did this was because I remember sending my client 100 interrogatories, always on some number in the 50s or 70s. They'd say, I already answered this. And then I'd have to go back and figure out what they were talking about because I'm not going to give them a call for one thing. And it was really annoying. So we allow the clients just to click on a prior response and then it will reinsert it here to combat that potentially ambiguous response. And once the client's done, they're brought to a review page that I just skipped to where we show them everything in one place. They can save and come back or submit it. Once submitted, Briefpoint emails you letting you know. But back in Briefpoint, you'll also know the client submitted the discovery because there'll be a green notification of their client activity, which is right here. Now, if your client hasn't answered or opened anything in a few days, we know how important it is to get their responses, and some people drag their feet. If they haven't opened it or gone to the link or answered anything, this will be a yellow notification. We bring it to the top of your page, and then you can use Briefpoint to send them follow-up reminders that are saying, hey, we really need you to respond to this. Here, my client...
kind of an alert outside of Briefpoint?
Yeah, it's another email that you send, but the text is a little bit more, hey, please, for God's sake, we're running out of time.
Yeah, not to the attorney. When the client uploads, does the attorney get any kind of an alert outside the platform, an email or something?
Yeah, you get an email from Briefpoint saying, hey, your client submitted the discovery, and then you can click the link in the email. It'll bring you right back to where I am now. Back in Briefpoint, since my client submitted, there's the Spanish one. I'm going to convert into English, and then copy and add, adds the client response verbatim below the subject to and without waiving the aforementioned objections line. So what this means is once you have your client response, and I'm adding them in now, you can get a first draft discovery response done by clicking suggest for the objections, copy and add for the response. You go one by one, and then once you're ready, you click open in Word for the document. And this document is what we get downloaded to the computer, where we have the caption page completed again, but instead of the shell, we actually have the objections and responses. So your task now, instead of doing this whole thing by hand, is just searching up your client's response, formalizing it, making sure that it's suitable for an actual response, maybe identifying holes in the testimony to follow up with them. But you have a very strong head start on the discovery responses for interrogatories here. We're going to talk about a feature that we just launched called AutoDoc. And what AutoDoc does is allows you to upload a case file. So, the reports, the emails, the medical records, the contracts, whatever it happens to be, all the documents that are relevant to a case, you upload them into Briefpoint. And then we're going to take every opposing counsel's request for production, find the documents responsive to each one, cite them in a substantive response, and give you a baited production package so that you can respond to your opposing counsel's RFPs very quickly. Now, the way it works is you go to upload production, you go into the case folder, you upload all the files and the complaint. It takes hours to process. So you just says, hey, you upload them, you leave, you do something else. You'll get an email from us once the documents are ready. And once they're ready, you upload your opposing counsel's request for production, click get started. I'm going to cruise through this confirmation steps here. And now what we see, in addition to the normal workflow, is a button called Find Documents. When I click Find Documents, Briefpoint takes this request and it searches through all the files you uploaded. Now, this will find 129 documents. And if you upload one PDF with 30 documents, Briefpoint will break those into 30 separate PDF documents so we can actually get granularity and response. But here's a ton of AI, right? And this is just saying we found 129 documents responsive to this request. We don't want you to take our word for it at all. So we say, don't trust AI, verify. Click verify. You'll see the documents that we're going to produce. But critically, we have this verification screen where we show you this. And what this is a folder system that we created to organize all the stuff that you uploaded for this case. We did this autonomously. We did it when you uploaded it. And you can use this to find documents for your case later on in Briefpoint. But the primary use of this in this situation is to show you where our AI looked for documents, and more importantly, where we did not look for documents. Because you can see that this is asking for medical records. And if you look at the white folders, which delineate a folder that we did not search in, you say this is construction contracts and project documents. There's no way there's responsive documents in there. Now I don't need to read through those. However, when I'm in medical records and I see hospital billing, I'm like, that sounds very relevant. Let's double check this. Okay, this is a revenue report, so it's not responsive, but I'm glad that I did this just to make sure that Briefpoint is doing the right stuff. And then if you need to fix it, you can just check the box and add it in. So this allows you to verify all of your responses in Briefpoint. I'm going to click Find Documents for the rest. And this is we call it like a lightweight e-discovery solution, right? Lightweight in that it's not designed for millions of documents. We don't recommend using anything above 10,000 documents. So if you have a bigger case, use your normal e-discovery vendor. This is for the 90% of cases that don't have the size or the value or the number of documents to warrant the e-discovery expenditure, because this is included in every account. And there's actual benefits beyond e-discovery, because instead of reviewing for relevancy, which is a step before responsiveness, we go straight to responsiveness, and we can find things like needles in haystack, where in this case there was only 2 documents that are responsive, perfect. In this case, there were 0 documents, which is something that e-discovery can't tell you. And in this situation, you can click unable to produce and explain why you can't produce this. Or of course, you can click send to client and get their input on whether or not they have the documents. Another needle in haystack where there's 1. And for the final one I want to show you is this request, which is asking for all documents that support a cause of action for negligence. Now, the reason we're able to actually find the documents that are supportive of this cause of action for negligence is because when you upload the production, you also upload a PDF of the complaint. So we know the facts of the case sufficiently, we know the parties, and we know their relationship to the case, so that we can say, oh, this document does support this cause of action for negligence, or this document doesn't, because in this case, which happens to be premise liability, negligence is going to the maintenance and construction of the property at issue, right? as opposed to any other type of tort. So because of that, you can cut through these really annoying requests. You click review, you set up how you want your Bates numbers to look because you're going to get a zip file with all the PDFs baited and ready for production. And as a final safety precaution, we show you all the documents that you uploaded that we didn't include in a response so that you can make sure you don't leave anything on the table, right? This is a final thing. These all maybe are relevant or responsive. In this case, I shortened the RFP from 50 to 5, so there's a lot left over. There's always going to be some left over, and what you can do is just view them, double check them, and say, okay, I'm going to add this to response 2, 3, and 4. Done. And now you've added those in, and once those are all ready, you click open in Word for the Word document, download production for the production file, and let's take a look at this Word doc here. Now we have the objections and then the substantive response by their Bates number. There's no more accurate way to reference documents is right here. And this is effectively a completed RFP response. And this alone, given that this is the cause of action for negligence, the responsive documents are all over the production. This would have taken a really long time to do by hand. And with AutoDoc, you can just do it right there. Any questions about that?
You may already know what I'm going to ask just because I've asked it of you before, but just real quick, this is not in any way screening for like privilege. And so you should either do that before you upload the documents or do it through some other mechanism, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we're not checking for privilege. We're not redacting. We anticipate and hope that our users will do that beforehand. However, if there are privileged documents that you find, I can show you, we have a system for marking them as privileged where I can go into my case, go into the folders, into the production, and if I say, oh, wait, this document is privileged, you can click the 3 dots and designate as privileged Briefpoint, and then you're going to get a list of all the documents you marked as privileged that you can use the basis for the privilege log, but none of that is automatic yet. And then the same thing, redactions. We have a plan for creating an auto redact function next year. We're going to have more robust ways to search for privilege where you'll be able to search for the name of an attorney and see all the documents that reference that attorney so that you can filter all that stuff. But right now, check for privilege before you upload, redact before you upload, and you're still going to save a lot of time.
All right. So far, we've been responding to discovery. Now you're going to show us how to propound discovery, right?
Exactly. Right. Propounding discovery in Briefpoint, it's more straightforward. To propound discovery, you click propound discovery and you upload a PDF of the complaint in the case. And what we do is we deconstruct the complaint and then recreate it as a set of interrogatories, requests for productions, and requests for admissions. These are all Word docs, they're all formatted, and they are in addition to a library of over 6,000 template questions you can use to drag and drop into those more tailored ones. But that'll make more sense in a second. All right, once it's done processing, click Get Started, and now we're going to confirm the information again. We have the propounding and responding party here. Steps 2 and 3 show you the broken down complaint. Now, if you're a tech savvy guy and you like to do prompt injections, you can do prompt injections right in here to tailor the discovery in one way or the other, just by inserting something like this, saying prompt injection, and then I'm going to say focus on defendant's driving record, right? So you can control that a little bit. It's a little bit of a hack, but you can still guide the AI, the processing as you want to do prompt injection at this step. We have a timeline of the events. We've got allegations. And now to draft your RFAs, interrogatories, and RFPs, we check these 3 boxes and hit confirm. Now, what's happening right now is we're writing the discovery requests. But to improve the quality of them, we have a system where we've trained this AI to object like a litigator. And we trained it on 230,000 samples of litigators lodging objections. So it has like the soul of the objecting attorney. And that objecting attorney AI was lodging objections to all the requests we were writing as we were writing them. And as we detected objections, we then rewrote the requests to avoid objections. So the sense of propounding discovery, we have literally anticipated the average attorney's objections and taken steps to address them. And you can see the breadcrumbs of this rewrite process here, where in the first RFA, we have a cite to a date, a make and model of a vehicle, an address. This is an annoying degree of case-specific detail that was likely the result of getting hit with an ambiguity or overbroad objection on first pass. And you can see all these dates are already baked in. So there's 21 RFAs. We have 31 RFPs. Special ROGs are here in every other jurisdiction besides California, regular interrogatories. Now, these are all tailored to the case. So what about those questions you always want to ask? Click Add from Library, and you can build your own library of templates, but every account already comes with over 6,000 templates you can use. So maybe I want to ask about charts and diagrams, scene photos, going into the specifics of this auto tort. We can do fatigue. And again, this is practice area agnostic, but here we have some about auto tort because this is an auto tort case, speed. And then you can add in all your templates and you're tailored, and then you click open in Word, and what you get is this document where we have the caption page done, definition section done, and then all the interrogatories listed one after another, basically ready for you to sign and serve on opposing counsel.
So Nathan, if you're generating these discovery requests based on the complaint, does that mean they end up being skewed toward the plaintiff's side?
That's a great question. So we actually have different systems for generating discovery, whether you're a plaintiff or a defendant. You still upload the complaint as a defendant, but the discovery is then designed to attack the allegations and, if applicable, shift liability away from your client. Whereas if you're the plaintiff uploading your own complaint, the discovery is going to seek to provide foundation for and elaborate on the claims and allegations in the complaint. So at the very first step, you choose plaintiff or defendant. What you're actually doing is sending it to different systems for generating propounding discovery.
All right. Anything else that you want to show us?
That covers it. We got a lot that we're building, and we're excited. And yes, be sure to follow along as we continue to build more products and features.
Great. And where can viewers find out more about you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Nathan Walter, Briefpoint CEO. If you want to learn more about Briefpoint, go to briefpoint.ai, click Get Started, put some time on our calendar, and we'll set you up.
All right. That was a very quick overview of everything that Briefpoint does. Really appreciate that, Nathan. And that does it for this episode of How It Works. You can find the full series on YouTube. Just search for How It Works. We're also on the LawNext Legal Tech Directory, directory.lawnext.com under the Resources tab. It's Bob Ambrogi. Thanks for watching today.